best-of-7 series. Notre Dame put up 48 points against USC. It's the fourth most versus an AP top 10 opponent in the poll era since 1936.
Look, part of that was I know they had a scoop and score, and they also had the 99-yard kick return. But Notre Dame hasn't been scoring that many points against anybody this year. That shows you how locked in they were, where USC is right now, and how if they really want to get it, look, it didn't affect them in the Pac-12, but certainly if they want to get back in the CFP discussion at all, USC has to fix a ton of things. A ton.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, they've had some problems over there on defense, and I think that started to be a situation where, especially at the end of the week, I saw some pushback on, it's not really, it's the defense, blah, blah, blah. It's not, or I guess maybe it was being made to be too much of an issue versus what it really is. But watching the Notre Dame game, it didn't make me feel any better that that's going in the right direction, or make me think any differently that it's not going in the right direction. Notre Dame has had, a rough go of things in a couple of contests here lately against Louisville and Ohio State. And to be able to turn around and put up a near 50 spot on USC, I think is a breath of fresh air no matter how you got it done, all three phases or just simply offensively. But, they got contributions from all over that roster, and that helped catapult them into a huge win. And I think the questions for USC that were there before the game remain or even more under the microscope now at this point. And for Notre Dame, I think you feel great about the way that you bounced back, because you could have found yourself in a real skid had you lost this game, and all of a sudden you've lost 3 of your last 4, and pretty much everything's dashed at that point. So that was a big response from them. And USC, just a really interesting little situation to watch. The way that this is going and the way that it may keep going, if that just sort of stays the way that it has been, especially defensively. And, then when your offense is not even being able to play all that well because of what Notre Dame was doing in particular, that was not a good look for them on Saturday night by any stretch. So, I'm just wondering, with Lincoln Riley's I don't know, man. It just when this first happened, I figured I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say here. When he first got there, I thought maybe that's a dream job for him, that he's going to be there for 10 years. But the more just the same old stays the same old, it is already one of those situations where you're like, man, is he going to be out of there in a year from now if things don't get any better? I don't know. It's just weird.
Caleb Williams is not going to survive the season if that continues with what we saw against Notre Dame on Saturday.
No, and let me throw this out there to you. I'm just opining. Lincoln Riley sounds like a guy who really wants to go to the NFL when he talks about it eventually. I don't really, but eventually wants to go to the NFL. And 2, look, he's also a Texas guy, and there could be a big job open in this state again pretty soon. Maybe if USC wasn't all he thought it was cracked up to be, he jumps into the Aggie fire. I don't know. That is way out in the future. I thought you were
talking about the Cowboys.
No, that one too. If that he could wind up being the head coach of the Cowboys or the head coach of Texas A&M, in my opinion, if he so chose to throw his name out there for either of those things.
Yeah,
at some point though, you got to plant your flag and defend that thing.
Yeah, otherwise you're Larry Brown, aren't you? Constantly moving around. Not that he's not a Hall of Fame coach.
You can't win a natty at Oklahoma. You can't win a natty at USC. I mean,
what makes you think you win the natty at A&M?
A&M, congratulations, you'd be a living legend for forever. But those other two are pretty dang good programs that are certainly above the Aggies. But the situation, I hadn't even thought about him in A&M at all. But I could see where that could maybe come into play. But, at some point, you got to stop moving around. You got to plant your flag and prove something, because playoff appearances are fine, but they've got you in this category, and you're trying to be in this category with, Saban and very few other guys, Kirby and Dabo, who Dabo's on his downswing. I mean, I know Jimbo's got a title, but he's clearly on a downswing. We haven't talked about A&M. We need to talk about them.
We will.
I think that he's got a lot to prove in Los Angeles, man. For as big of a stick as he swung in making that move from Norman to L.A., to be a couple years in and be a little bit disappointed at this stage. I mean, they're still 6-1. Let's not go crazy with it, but. Yeah, it's just a weird deal. I don't know. It's just a weird situation.
All right, A&M, we'll get to that. In fact, Sam Kahn, who wrote that column today on theathletic.com, will join us tomorrow on the column about, is this all there is? after all these years. And it seemed like after all these years, when it comes to Jimbo and the offense and A&M, and they just it's like talk about Craig mentioned this about Baylor, not explaining how bad Baylor's looked this year, but it's like crazy pills watching them on offense.
Well, it's hard. It's a really tough watch. And the reason I threw Lincoln Riley out is that A&M is not particularly creative when it comes to hiring people, right? And sometimes you don't need to be. Sometimes it's like, okay, what have we not done? Let's hire somebody who did that. And that's why Jimbo Fisher was the guy the last time around. But before that, it's like, okay, well, Kevin Sumlin's at Houston. That's 90 miles away. Let's get him here. Dennis Franchione's at Alabama. He must know what he's doing.
Yep.
He was at TCU. Mike Sherman was here under R.C. Slocum. He'll fix everything. That's kind of been their thinking, not, hey, let's really think out 10 years in the future of who can make this program, who can be this program's Saban? Who can be that guy that turns it into something really special? They haven't really thought out that. But
why would they? What do you don't think they thought out what Jimbo Fisher could mean? He's coached at a high level. Yeah, I know.
I guess that would have been the Saban thing. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but they don't need a Saban. They need a Bowden.
There is no Saban.
They need a somebody who built it from nothing, like who said, okay, this is my program. They've never had that. They've always gone for the next guy. The coach in my lifetime who I said that it was truly his program was R.C. Slocum, and that's a long damn time ago.
Yeah, and they ran him out, too.
The Longhorns always get compared to the Cowboys, but is A&M not more of the Cowboys?
I mean, they're
absolutely very similar, yeah.
The only difference between the Longhorns and Cowboys have both won anything. A&M hasn't since 1939. We weren't in World War II yet.
Yeah, the other thing about Riley, too, is was he bringing Alex Grinch with him? That's the day he's got to answer that in Hollywood before he answers that anywhere else.
A lot of chat in the chat about Grinch and Riley and what they must have on each other, or just damn good close friends.
And he's been the benefactor, and rightfully so, because he's recruited, signed, and then developed a lot of those guys. But Caleb Williams has covered up even more warts than we even realized too. On top of that, as I'm slightly distracted by Jonah Heim home run, 5-1 Rangers in the top of the third, but. That's a tricky situation in L.A. Huge expectations. Only one loss, still in the Pac-12 running and all that, but they definitely took a step back on Saturday with that loss to the Irish. And that was one of the 5 games that we picked. All those games, I think, ended up being – that one was competitive for a little while. But
Which one?
Notre Dame, USC.
Yeah.
But then Notre Dame just pulled away and made it very clear they were the better team.
Now – from retired stockbroker, correct on no other Nick Saban. Boomer Lee, we can't use recruiting and NIL as the issues because Iowa State, Kansas State playing a lot better with less talent. Longhorns and Cowboys are the same programs from Sam in the chat room, no doubt.
I'll throw this out to you guys, and I sent you a text to think about this. All 3 of you. I want Garrett's opinion on this as well. A&M, and this is the difference. And I tweeted out the other day, and somebody said, well, Kevin Sumlin didn't, he had good recruiting classes. Jimbo has great recruiting classes. Kevin Sumlin took them one step closer with the recruiting. He kind of turned it up a little bit. But Jimbo has these great recruiting classes, number 1 in the country. Mm-hmm. And, routinely top 5 to 7 recruiting classes that A&M is getting. And they're continuing to be the same, which means that, the finger kind of points to him. Because if you took any other coaching staff in the top 25, I would say, and plopped them down in College Station and said, here's your roster, they'd be like, what? Thank you. I appreciate that. I say any other. There's a few, but there's a lot of coaches who are struggling right now because they have a lack of talent that would do a lot better job than Jimbo Fisher and the staff are doing with the group they have right now.
Sir, blah, blah, blah. Mike Sherman coached a year up here in the CFL, didn't go very well. He did a nice job. He kind of helped them, kind of, I guess, what do you think? He stabilized everything, and then, of course, they went to Sumlin, and he had Johnny Football, and that worked out pretty well.
Sorry, my biggest Sherman memory is 77-0 at the hands of Oklahoma. Yeah. That was my Sherman memory. But, no, he kind of stabilized. I think before Johnny Mania took over and they got to be the big swinging SEC team and all of that stuff that they've been now the last few years, right there at the top of the recruiting rankings and whatnot, right in the mix, but just without the results to actually kind of back up a lot of the talk, I guess, or the investments even as well. But yeah, Paul, I don't know, man. At some point, it's got to be something that we're missing that's other than just a coach. Because I agree with you to an extent. I think if Kirby Smart took over A&M, that yeah, they'd probably be better. If Nick Saban took over him, yeah, they'd be better. But beyond that, I don't know. I don't think if you put Sark there that they're noticeably better. I don't think if you put Dave Aranda there, and I know you mentioned that, I think they could be good, but I don't know that they're better because I don't know that they recruit as well. So the Jimbo has his positives. I don't know what the overall disconnect is, though, however, and I don't know that it's something that is just as simple as finding the right coach. I mean, that's the last thing you can point to, though, because it's like, what else could it be? You've got the players, right? Or at least you think that you do. You've got the investments. You've got the stadium. You've got the bells, the whistles, and everything in between. What's the one thing missing? And I guess it all just does come back to Jimbo. But, yeah, who could possibly be that guy to put it all together? Well, that's what they've been wondering their entire history, basically.
So maybe they should hire somebody and just be patient through even some very difficult and frustrating times.
The problem, though, is they need to do that with someone who they're not paying
$100 million.
Not paying $100 million to, because right now they are paying Rolls-Royce prices for Kia production.
That's fair.
That's what they're doing. So if you want to have, like, if you want to hire Jeff Traylor,
we don't have a sponsor with Kia, do we?
No, I don't think. And look, I'm just saying, I'm not knocking Kia. I'm just saying they even know they're not Rolls-Royce. But if you are going to do that, you need to hire a Jeff Traylor for a fraction of the cost and let Jeff Traylor find his way there. That's what I'm saying. Or if you're going to hire big boys, you need to hire the right big boy and pay the right kind of, and do the right kind of things, because I know there's some of it was they probably got a little over their skis on NIL with that #1 recruiting class, and a lot of those guys weren't a fit, and that's maybe not totally Jimbo's fault. He was trying to navigate the waters he was in, and who's going to say no to the #1 recruiting class, right? It shits shockwaves to the SEC. Nick Saban's doing dinners where he's telling you, like, I need $1 million more from you and all these things. So that was kind of working. The thing is that they need a coach who can innovate a little bit more with those guys. I think that's where Jimbo is in his own way, and they are.
Wait a minute. Let's talk about who they recruit. With all due respect to Haynes King and all have they landed a nuclear quarterback?
No, and that's the other thing that they hired Jimbo to do. Because Jimbo was the quarterback whisperer for a while there. You can list off Jamarcus Russell, Matt Flynn, Matt Mock. He won 2 national titles with the guys who were, not really even that great when it comes to it.
Matt Flynn was like a 3-star quarterback.
Yeah, and then at Florida State, he put E.J. Manuel in the first round. He put Christian Ponder in the first round. Won a Heisman Trophy and a national title with Jameis Winston. Like, how many of those guys have I mentioned that are NFL superstars? None of them,
but he won.
And he was winning with them, and then he came to A&M. He hasn't done it. It is the weird thing about A&M is no matter what they throw at it, it does not work, and there's some kind of flaw in their plan.